What's up, y'all? This is Daryl D. Hey, I just had to make this video, man. I had a really cool night last night. I want to tell you guys about it. Um, Let me just start from the beginning. We're gonna talk about Femi Kuti, son of the famous, talented Fela Kuti, Afrobeat creator, and all around incredible musician and singer. Um, if I could back up just a little bit, um, I found out maybe a few weeks ago or so, I don't remember exactly, that Femi was coming here to Phoenix, Arizona, and he was going to be performing at the Musical Instrument Museum, the only one of its kind located here in Phoenix. So I went to look up tickets because that's a must. I've only seen Femi one other time, and that was in Milwaukee at Summerfest several years ago. And I looked up tickets, and those tickets were like, I think they were like 120 or 130. It was something ridiculous, and I was like, nah, that's crazy. I can't spend that kind of money on a concert ticket, not anymore. Anyway, right around the same time, I find out that Femi is also going to be performing in New York City at Central Park at Summer Stage, and that his openers include Dead Prez, and I forgot who the other opener was. So, and it was free because the New York City Parks Department, they have free concerts all over the five boroughs every summer. If you're ever going to go to New York, summertime is a good time to go because there's so much free stuff, especially when it comes to concerts. So many free concerts all around the city. So I thought, I'm just going to go there, forget about the Phoenix show, blah, blah, blah. So I get to New York, and I was there for like 9 or 10 days. Well, it just so happens that I got my dates mixed up. And I found out that there was another show. I hadn't planned on going to this show, but another free show in New York was going to be at the Lincoln Center, and it was a J Period mixtape concert featuring Farside and Arrested Development, two of my favorite groups. So I go to Central Park on the date that Femi's performing. All of these people are going into the Summer Stage. Thousands of people are there. Come to find out, that's not the day that Femi's performing. I'm there on the wrong day. He's performing the next day. Okay, well, the next day happens to be the J Period show, the Farside Arrested Development show. And I thought, well, which one should I go to? And I had homies with me, you know what I mean? And so I thought, well, maybe I should go to the Farside Arrested Development show. I hadn't seen Arrested Development since the 90s, actually. So it had been a while since I saw them. And I figured, you know what? I can still kind of bite the bullet, spend the money on the Phoenix ticket for Femi, and just see both shows. So that was the plan. Anyway, we went to the Lincoln Center. The show was incredible. Yes, there will be clips posted here on this channel, so make sure you stay tuned and check those out. They're coming soon. I'm trying to space them apart a little bit, but they're definitely coming. And so anyway, we do all that. The show's fantastic, incredible. Dead Prez ended up performing there. Renee from Johnny was there, and I think one or two other people. Evil D opened up the show. It was a great show. Great show. So I get back to Phoenix, and a few days later is when the Femi show is going to be here. I look up tickets. Now I'm seeing tickets for just over $100. Fine. I'll spend $100 just so, because I don't want to miss it, definitely, but I'll definitely check it out. So Come to find out, I'm talking to a buddy of mine, and he's looking around. He finds some tickets, and they're like 50, $60. I'm like, even better. Even better. Let me go check out this show. The show was last night. Okay, so I get there, and summer stage in New York, that wouldn't have happened. And I'm talking about, as far as I would have loved to have met Femi and got his autograph, but that was a long shot. It wasn't going to happen. And I didn't know. I had never been to the museum, the instrument museum here, but from videos I've seen, it looks like a small, intimate setting, and it looks like it's possible to have access to artists, but I wasn't sure. Anyway, I decided to bring a Femi record with me anyway. So that's what I did. Now, when I got to the venue and I'm walking in, I noticed that to the side of the venue, to the left of the venue, is like this driveway, and that's where the tour buses pull up. So there's a bus that was backed in there. Obviously, Femi and his crew. I brought in my record bag, and I had my record in there with a couple of markers. And I go to the venue, blah blah blah. Go and get my seat. It's a beautiful venue. It's very intimate. There's no seat that is a bad seat. Every seat in there, it's perfect. If you ever decide to go there and you want to get the cheapest tickets possible, go ahead and get them. It's still a fantastic view from no matter where you're sitting. So the show starts. Femi comes out. I'm doing a little bit of recording. Long story short, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic show. You know what's weird about Femi is, and by the way, when I say this is Fela's son, it's the equivalent of who Stephen Marley is to Bob Marley, or Damien, or Ziggy. So it's like the offspring, and it's the best you're gonna get outside of the father, the parent. So it's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. It was an incredible show. His dancers came out, all the musicians came out. The sound was excellent. There were even parts of the show where there was no music playing, and he was just kind of singing or talking, and talking real low or whatever, and you could hear it perfectly throughout that entire place. It was great. I think he performed for like an hour and a half. Dancers performed the whole time. I guess one of the backup dancers is his wife. The musicians were great. It was a great show. It's just one of those shows where, especially here in Phoenix, you don't see those kind of shows come through here very often. Not artists like that. I remember seeing a flyer at this music store many years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and he was performing. Femi was here in town. He was performing in Flagstaff, about, 2 hours away from Phoenix. I didn't get to go to that show. I was like in the very beginning stages of Afrobeat. I believe, if my memory serves me correct, I either hadn't bought an Afrobeat record yet, or I only had a few. But I thought, wow, Phoenix? And back then I used to get Femi and Fela mixed up. So I actually thought it was Fela, even though he had passed long before that. So it was a big deal. Show ends, everybody's leaving, and I was hoping that maybe, he would come out, or come to the lobby and hang out, or maybe, there would be a merch booth, which there wasn't, and I figured, by the end of the show that wasn't gonna happen, because, he was drenched, he was soaking wet, and I was like, this guy's gonna, go to his dressing room or hotel or whatever and relax or whatever, get freshened up. So I leave. Most of the people, it was kind of funny. I'm gonna leave that part out. Anyway, there's a few people still mingling around and talking in the lobby, and I remember sitting in there while the show was going on, and I had my record in my bag underneath my seat, and I'm looking at this crowd, and this is what's crazy. When I saw him in Milwaukee at Summerfest, it was probably about 75% white people and maybe 25% black people. At this show here in Phoenix, it was like 90% white people. Not just white people, but older white couples. I'm talking about 60s and 70s. Like, they were older people. And I was like, wow. And then there was like maybe 10% of us in there. And I would say out of that 10%, probably 90% of that 10% were African people. So, yeah, it was. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm looking around the crowd and I'm like, I bet not one of these people actually own a Femi record. And I was like, I bet you at least 95% of these people don't even own a Femi CD. Now I'm just guessing, but I'm looking at this crowd. I'm a music collector, so I think I'm pretty accurate when I say that these people don't look like they rock Femi, at the crib or whatever. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Anyway, I'm just a thought that was going through my mind. I was like, this is very interesting. But yo, I'm gonna tell you something. Them people, all these people, these older white people, they was in there rocking. They was in there rocking the Femi. Femi had them waving their hands. Everybody. It was crazy. It was a good show. It was a great show. Now the show that I saw in Milwaukee was bananas. Absolutely insane. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so I'm leaving the venue, and I had already said to myself, I'm going to take a look over here at this tour bus and see if there's any kind of, movement around there or anything. So I'm walking to my car, and I'm walking and I'm looking over, and when I get in full sight, I see the tour bus, and I see like a few people around it. There was like maybe 6 or 7 people there from a distance. So I get over there, and I'm thinking from the distance, I'm thinking it was him or his band members or whoever. But once I got up close, it was all people from the show that was inside of the show. And they were, I would say most of them were clearly African people. And there's this guy who looks like, I don't know if he was a bus driver or, at the time I didn't know if he was a bus driver or what, but he's standing by the door and the door is closed. I think he was an employee. He was either a bus driver or he was an employee of the venue. I'm not exactly sure. So I walk up there, and people kind of turn and look at me, and I ask the guy, I was like, hey, is he available? And the guy says, well, he hasn't even come out of the venue yet. So people have beat me over there. And then somebody says, there he is. I don't know. Somebody said, there he is. I look over, he's coming out of the back. And everybody just kind of was like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. And so people are asking him for pictures. He's taking pictures and this, that, and the other thing. And I pull out my record. And I pull out this record right here. And I pull out my marker. And he's, everybody's talking to him and blah, 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 blah. And I just kind of take my record and I just kind of just hand it to him. With the marker, I just kind of hand it to him, like this. And when he sees, he's talking and he's looking around, and then he sees the record and he goes, oh, okay. Which was cool. I always seeing these different artists kind of trip out, when they see their own product. And he goes, wow. And I give him the marker, and he's signing it, which I'll show you in just a second. But he's signing it, and he goes, when this came out? This came out in 2010. And then he says, do you have my new one? I was like, I don't have the new one yet. He's like, you got to get my new one. And I said, hey, man, consider it done. Because I noticed, like the Milwaukee show was like, it was a lot more like the Fela sound. But the show last night was a lot softer and more mellow. It was upbeat, but it was just kind of mellow. Even the faster stuff was. So then after, when I pull the record out and I'm handing it to him, everybody's like, hey, where'd you get that? Where did you get that? Where did you get that? And I'm like, I got a lot of these at home. Like, I don't even know how, a record store, the internet. And they're like flipping out, like, they still make records, and well, how could you, that? And so he signs it for me, and then one guy asked if he could use my marker. He had like a Fela shirt on, and so he got him to sign his t-shirt. And so I started taking pictures and whatnot, and people are asking me to take their pictures. I don't think anybody else got anything signed at all. And then I got a quick little selfie with him. Now, like I said, like I've collected autographs from a lot of different celebrities over the years, and I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people, and a lot of those people several times over. And for me to be such a big fan of Afrobeat music, a big Fela fan, and then his son, who's a great, incredible Afrobeat artist, I get to meet him too, and I get to, have him sign my record, and he's actually like, wow, you got my record, that's awesome. Not only do you have my record, you got a record from 2010. You could clearly see, that he was enjoying that moment. And people were asking him for pictures and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then he was finally like, hey, I gotta go, whoop-de-woo. And I was just sitting back like, wow, man. And the other thing is this. Not only does, at least my experience is, he doesn't come around in areas where I am very often. Not only that, but this guy is from Lagos, Nigeria. He's from the other side of the world. And he's here, right here, in the town where I live. And I get to meet him. So, it was it was sort of a blessing that I didn't get to see him in New York. I wish I could have done both. I probably would have. And I was like, man, I was trying to go see you in New York at Summer Stage. He was like, oh, yeah? I was like, yeah, man. He's like, man, that was a great show, too. I was like, yeah, I bet it was. And, the fact that he came from so far away and he's, like, right there, and I got to do the whole 9. This is a record, Africa for Africa. And if I zoom in, you can see the signature right there, with love, Femi. Very incredible. It was a great night. I was so excited. It was a good night, and I wanted to share that experience with you guys. That's all I got. I just wanted to share. One of those Daryl D cool experiences that I get to tell you guys about. Anyway, to my Afrobeat people, this was fantastic. I hope you have a moment like this as well. But that's all I got for now. I'm about to get up out of here. You guys be safe. I'll see you guys next time. And it was a good night. Y'all stay safe. Peace and love.